Yeah. So oh, oh, okay, we got our Zoom recording back. Great. Okay. Yeah. So for February, it's probably going to be quite a quick meeting. I'll just really quickly go through some of the stuff we always go through. So nothing much has changed for 2023. There was a bit of an uptick in almost everywhere for I think December, January, but then the newest data that's come in, especially for the Fed, is that inflation isn't going down as quickly as they expected. Actually, interestingly, most of the decrease has been because of oil. So it's kind of hard to tell how much of the restrictive monetary policy is actually working on most of the prices. So I think their most recent decision was 25 basis point in I think early Feb. Yeah, and then the consensus is that they're gonna keep maybe be more aggressive, but they're definitely going to keep uh hiking the rates as long as inflation data isn't coming down. Yeah, and then a little bit of a concern with US debt, but they could be raising the debt ceiling and then also kind of figuring out a way to kind of change their accounting so that they don't have to default. Yeah, but
Yeah.
that's a bad thing for the economy as well because if the government's credit goes down, then interest rates could go up further. Yeah. And then for China, um it's mostly been the the result of the reopening. So it's mostly been that just playing out. And then interestingly I found this statistic, not sure how accurate it is, but I think maybe about 80% or more, depending on how much testing there's been done, because there's obviously been less testing. But yeah, most of the population has actually been infected, including me. But it's been quite a quick wave. So um the view on China is quite, at least for now, is quite interesting right now because um it's mostly been, they opened up really quickly and then everybody got infected really quickly. And then
Mm,
people are also kind of recovering. And then if you look at like the LEIs, it's been going down, but there are some promising like if you actually look at what's going on with the stories, like cross-border recruitment, and then a lot of people are moving across borders now, like between provinces, between cities, and then also people are going out and spending their money. So I think one focus moving ahead is um how much this effect is going to kind of boost China's economy. Like um so Chinese people actually already save a lot. So they usually save about 20% of their income, but then during COVID they saved even more because they weren't spending it anywhere. Yeah, so there's a
mm,
lot of money that they could be spending now that the economy is opening up. So that should be interesting, especially if we're looking at China consumer. Yeah. And then for Latin America, it's kind of the same narrative as before. But definitely this like kind of lagging hit on inflation is going to drag down Latin America, um and then also the US dollars. Latin America is mostly dependent on commodities export, and then uh, right now for LATAM it's mostly kind of can they keep down inflation while they're being so affected by the states, by their like kind of they're kind of like trying to coordinate their policies to try and see if there's a way that they can keep inflation
mhm.
down for now. Yeah. Um but yeah, so that's a kind of brief overview for what kind of environment the companies we're looking at might be facing right now. Yeah, and
Mhm.
then this stuff I'll just go over really quickly. Just a quick reminder to everybody that you can keep working on your individual research, and then once you're ready we can post it. Yeah, and then
Sure.
can I just get an update? So for Marito, I know that from Raj that they're going to present next month on some of the work they've done on their process and what's been going on with their research. So I think for this month we'll just spend like maybe like 15 minutes, 20 minutes just to kind of hear from maybe Spring. So if I'm not wrong, I heard from Javier that so you guys have been working on the China EV research, and then also a new position in Domino. So if you could just share with everybody really quickly, and then we can kind of see if sorry for the glaring typo, but we can see if there's anything that we can kind of point out, and then you guys can just bring us through what your thought process is. Yeah, so should we get started with the EV bunch? I think it's oh, is Yujin here, or did Javier appoint somebody?
Eugene's not here, but
Okay.
I think that
Mhm.
Javier said he's working on the BYD. I'm not very sure
Okay.
whether it's the same. And then he said that
Mm-hmm.
he might be able to do a presentation next month, but no promises.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay, okay. No problem. Yeah, thanks. Okay, so I think for okay, that's for EV. Then it's okay. I think we can kind of bring this offline, and then kind of see if we can kind of bring our questions to him. But if he's not here, then it's okay. Yeah, for today. Um, then what about Domino's? Can I know who is in charge of that?
For Domino's, Xinghui and I are currently looking at it, and then because the earnings reports around, I think 2 days, the latest
From now.
earning reports, yeah. So we'll just look at that. Yeah, I haven't really looked into that,
Okay,
the latest one, but
no
yeah.
problem. Yeah. Yes. Could you just like walk us through like why you're looking at it, and not like super like one, two, three, what's your thesis, but like kind of just um what caught your attention, and kind of like why now, why Domino's?
For this, like we were trying to look at something simple, so maybe like one, like because we are in the consumer sector, and then if we want to look
Mm-hmm.
at a company with one business,
Right. Mm-hmm.
yeah, so like Domino's kind of caught our eye in terms of that, like analyzing something simple. So we're trying to look in that direction. And also, I think because of our discussions with Zheng Qin, yeah, then he also mentioned about Domino's, so we're quite interested in like,
Oh, okay.
yeah, what's up with that? Yeah.
Okay. So for now, what's the kind of like is there anything different about Domino's now compared to before, like valuation or anything new with the business that's
Maybe I can say for this a
mm-hmm.
bit. So I think why we look into Domino's is because of their high revenue growth as well as their high earnings growth, as well as the management team planning to expand internationally. Like they plan to double down, having stores
Mm-hmm.
in countries like China, India, and Mexico, etc. And their dividend payout has been rather strong these few years. And
Mm-hmm.
in terms of peers, comparing to peers, right, they have been quite undervalued as if you are looking at metrics like EV to revenue or PE ratio. But I think one of the concerns that stop us from actually like moving further from Domino's is because of their balance sheet. Currently, they are very, very heavy on debt. Their debt actually makes
Okay.
up around like 4 billion as compared to like their free cash flow, which is like 400 million. Yeah, I think what
Okay.
we can only take comfort in the fact that their current EBITDA can pay off their interest expense, but we don't know like in this current climate, is it very good to have
Yeah.
such heavy debt? Yeah, and currently, 2 days ago they released their fourth quarter earnings report, but we haven't got a chance to look into it. But so far, I don't think they perform as well as expected because their revenue from their US stores actually decreased because of I think more competitors, etc. Yeah, so we planning to like look further into it, and I think by next month we should be able to give a answer on whether or not we should we even invest in that stock. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, yeah. Okay, that's great. I think either way, like just make sure you record everything, and then kind of like when you present also, like no need to kind of just do a pitch deck, like make it very formal. I think just even a written document is fine, and then just make sure that even if we don't follow through, yeah, there's a lot of you can at least write your logic and your thinking down, and then we can kind of file that somewhere, and maybe one day we can come back to it.
Okay, got it.
Yeah. Okay, thank you. Okay. In that case, we might have a very, very short meeting. Um, yeah, do you guys have any questions for like your research or
So I have a question for Zin. If I
Mm,
can I ask?
yeah, go ahead.
Sure. Zin, do you have any idea that how does Domino's tackles competition? Because a few months ago I read this company called Sapphire Foods, which is an Indian-based quick service restaurants. So and I can see pretty much from reading their annual report that they face an intense competition from in the quick service restaurants, be it Domino's or any other companies, right? So how does Domino's face competition? And the second question is that in what are the countries they have a market, and how is the competition in those markets?
Okay, I think I try then maybe Yixin can add on. So I think in US, like what you say, I think their current market now right now is in the US.
Okay.
So their competitors are mainly like I think what they're trying to do recently is expanding their delivery arms. So currently I think they are the number one delivery provider when it comes to pizzas.
Mm-hmm.
And like what you say, but they are losing a lot of market share on this delivery portion. So I think if I'm not wrong, they are trying to expand their collection arm instead. Yeah, for this particular Domino's, we haven't really looked in that yet, but we'll get back to you that answers the questions.
Sure, Zin. No worries at all. Yeah, fine. Okay, so that's it
Okay,
from my side, Rebecca. These are the questions that I wanted to ask. Yeah.
okay. Yeah, I guess just as more of a general discussion, I just wanted to ask you guys, so like what are your thoughts on kind of given the macro environment right now, what kind of stocks are you guys looking at for your personal personal project or even for the teams? I know Spring is kind of working on the longer term thesis for EV. And then are you guys still exploring like the internet consumer and like kind of like I think when you guys started, you guys are more focused on like e-commerce, stuff like that. Is that still like under, something that you're interested in given, the markets right now?
Okay. Can I answer, or is there anyone?
Oh no, anybody can answer. Yeah.
Sure. So Rebecca, when it comes to macroeconomy, I don't really pay attention much to macroeconomy. So my perspective is
Mhm.
very simple that, I have invested my capital into businesses which is run by well managers. Okay, so whatever happens, they'll be taken care of. Got my point, right? So I don't pay much attention to it because I have given my money to the good managers. If I am running a fund, got my point, right? If I'm running a sort of a professional fund,
Mhm.
then definitely I am obliged to take a look at macro things, right? And also it is something which is not in our control. Got my point, right? So
Mm.
yes, Rebecca. So at the end of the day, my whole point is to look at the durable mode characteristics of the businesses.
Mhm.
Right. And the second point is that whether the product or services which has been consumed by the customer is very important or not. Like See's Candies. Buffett says, even though inflation is rising up over the decades, but See's Candies business is just still going on good. Right. So I think these are the two things which I pay attention to it. And and I have a good observation about Alibaba. Right. So in Alibaba, people there is intense competition going on the e-commerce platform. Right. I know Alibaba is a GM. Okay, but the market is huge, so huge. But I think there is an intense competition going on there. So I don't have as much as optimism like our group members who are buying Alibaba. Got my point, right? Because there is
Mhm.
so much intense competition that Alibaba is facing right now. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. On the macro thing, I'm not sure if anybody would kind of agree with me on this, but
Mhm.
the impact of macro, in my view, especially for tech, which our portfolio kind of looks a lot on, is, what are companies doing now? So if, you know, their loans are getting more expensive and they're more reluctant to invest. That means,
Mm-hmm.
they're cutting, like big tech, they're cutting their
Yeah.
workforce. They're probably gonna suffer a few quarters of
Mm-hmm.
losses, stuff like that. How is that gonna affect our valuations? So if it ever pushes valuations into a window where it's um the kind of earnings potential over the long run, or the kind of the value of their assets or their kind of longer term investments, if that kind of doesn't change and there's this mismatch between the current price and that intrinsic value that we determine, then macro actually matters, because it presents us with an opportunity. It's not, say, like, I think I've read a few investors, they talk about it like this, where it's like there's no point in kind of predicting like where macro goes. Like by like 2024 Q2, like inflation's gonna be at what,
Mm-hmm.
3.2, or like there's no point in doing that, because we're not like traders. We're not actively trying to like see if this goes down by how much, then we at a certain leverage we have, how much of a profit. It's more of if we know what the companies are facing now, or at least a little bit into the near term,
Mm-hmm.
like we kind of understand the context in which why they're cutting people, or why they're losing money, or why if inflation is very high, why um certain technologies or certain trends can kind of help people to grab customers, or to kind of offer them lower prices and stuff like that, that sort of is impacted by the macro. And so like our businesses, or like whatever we're looking at, they're not in a vacuum where just the economy goes on as it is, and then the management just overcomes any problems. I mean, ideally a good management should do that, but at the same time it's also interesting to see what exactly they do. It's only if we recognize the problem, or the challenge that they're doing, then we recognize it, or we're able to see who the really good managers are and who isn't. And like if they're suffering losses, we have to look exactly at what problem they're facing, and
Mm.
how they might transform that into an opportunity. So I understand your point, but I think at least for us, especially because we want to make money in the end of the day from buying, at a lower price, and trying to kind of um make sure that that rises up over time. It's pretty important that we get our entry price right. Yeah, and there are times where that the opportunity to kind of get a really good company that's
Mm-hmm.
suffering like what we determine could be a long-term problem, could be
Mm-hmm.
a short-term problem. But we have to make a judgment on that. And before we make a judgment, we have to pay attention to the macro and kind of see what's really important, what's not. Yeah, so
Mm-hmm.
um yeah, I think for Alibaba, they're still working on a lot of their research, but I think it'd
Mm-hmm.
be interesting to kind of check out so like different segments of Alibaba's business, right? So they
Mm.
have their e-commerce, but they also have their cloud, and they have a
Mm.
lot of strategic investments. So right now, I believe that the team's not here to present that today, because they're both I think uh yeah, one of them is busy with something else, and then someone also took leave from me, but then they're kind of another thing that we discussed and we thought it would be interesting to look at is to kind of see how big tech in China is um
Mm.
kind of investing in the ecosystem. And the thing about tech in China is that it's very government driven. So I know that everywhere, like the government has policies to develop tech,
Mm.
but in
Mm.
China, it's very like ideologically driven. So they have this very like social purpose, where they think that tech is going to have this very widespread like ripple
Mm.
effect for solving a lot of their like how to bring more people out of poverty, how to kind of make education more accessible, how
Mm.
to kind of drive like more higher end of the value chain kind of businesses. Yeah, so like for big tech businesses in China that have a lot of a huge war chest of they can invest in so many things that kind of help them make more money on their existing operations. So their direction right now, like their next steps, is more
Mm.
of to kind of look at what in the long term, right? So
Mm.
right now, China COVID, China regulation, stuff like that, these kind of more immediate short term hits, what does that, it's all about like trying to see how much has that impacted the price now or the
Mm.
valuation now? And then how much of, what they're actually working on and how this management is taking this company through the current environment. How is that going to play out in the next few years? And whether that's going to mean they make more money in the future.
Mm.
So so for that team, they're sort of looking at that. And then yeah, so it's a lot about, can Alibaba kind of move away from the older, the very, high competition space into into another market or into another product line where maybe they
Mm.
have the first movers or they have a bigger share of the market, or if they have some sort of bigger moat that
Mm.
they have better technology, they can protect it, or can their technology be used in a variety of their operations or their businesses, and how their kind of strategic investments are kind of gonna help them, remain the market leader in that segment. So yeah, like it's definitely interesting to kind of see this shift in Alibaba, or this shift in China's tech from being very driven by Jingdong, by Ali, by Tencent in the past for like the very like kind of lower hanging fruit, and to kind of see how Chinese tech companies together with the government, they're like surely moving towards this one direction, versus if you go to other countries where there's a bit less of this very like stubborn, not really stubborn, very committed government
Mm.
in terms of like carrying out a 5-year plan or carrying out a very like long-term goal for common prosperity, stuff like that. So
Right.
so they're kind of in that environment. It's very interesting to see how tech companies are kind of shifting. And
Mhm.
it's also interesting, it's you kind of see parallels in the States, right? So all the big techs, they're either moving towards AI, metaverse, or
Mhm.
this whole rah-rah about ChatGPT and AI. Big tech, they're going to move towards going beyond advertising revenue and going beyond the kind of very traditional the traditional money makers. And they make so much money, so they're the ideal people who are going to invest in these kind of newer businesses. And it's been it's going to be interesting to kind of always kind of see how China tech is moving with respect to like other countries or other tech companies elsewhere. And like I said, it happens to be that everybody in VIP IC is kind of really obsessed with tech, and
Mhm.
for good reason. But yeah, so I think tech is really interesting. It'd be really fun for us to keep going down. But that said, like whatever your personal project is, it doesn't have to be tech. It could be literally anything. It could be a really interesting company like Domino's right now, which is
Yeah.
has which is a simple business, but at the same
Yeah.
time, what kind of problems is it facing?
Mm.
What kind of shifts is it gonna make?
Mm.
And then what kind of price, whether we can kind of get in on a good opportunity. Yeah. So it depends. And then a good thing would be that to within your teams to kind of try and remember that you you guys are in the same team because you sort of chose this idea together. And especially for the long term, like it is, given how volatile the environment is right now, it is very interesting for us to kind of think more of these long-term stories, or if there's a long-term trend that is um, going to be have this very more significant effect on which way an entire industry goes, or which way a company can kind of innovate and find
Mm.
a new trajectory to go in. And then that's also kind of more of a training of for us, not just to find companies that meet a certain like criteria and then we just buy it. It's also kind of helpful for us to compare between companies, and then to look at how markets are going in like kind of these slightly bigger themes. I think that's interesting for us to learn from as well. Yeah, but that's just a little bit of my input, and
Got
kind
it.
of an encouragement for everybody to kind of be excited about kind of investing in the future. I think one thing our club does is that we're value investors, so we're not always like going after the growth companies, and like we want to be like ARK, we want to be like we want to take on so much risk, and we don't really it's still about value investing, but it's also interesting to see if there are certain opportunities or certain instances where we can make sort of value buys, or certain companies sort of become value as
Mhm.
you go through these very weird times. And then whether we can still be, buying into ideas that are gonna, impact the future 3 to 5 years or even longer down the road. Yeah. But yeah, that's just a little bit of maybe kind of a suggestion, kind of not really. If you have a whole different view, you can,
Mhm.
you can write about it. You can speak now. You can let everybody know, or you can, write about it, and then we can all read about it when you post it. But I think everybody has their own approach. I think the point of having teams to have like a common theme that you agreed on, or to have teams like team members to bounce off ideas of,
Mhm.
the point of it is just that you can share your unique or your personal view, and then you
Yes.
kind of see what other people might have to add or might kind of disagree on, and then you can slightly kind of expand what your perspective is. But yeah, with that said, it's kind of because we don't have a lot of members today, and then some of the members are kind of busy, so there's a lot of stuff in the works. Hopefully by next month we'll be able to kind of see more analysis, and then we'll have some points to kind of think more deeply about, and then maybe more questions will pop up then. But for this month, um I think while some of you guys are wrapping up your research, you
Mhm.
can also just think more like think more macro, like on behalf of the fund, or kind of just for your own thinking on, what a value investor could be doing at this point in time, um, what their general attitude or what their general strategy could be. Yeah, and then I've talked a bit about China, like in the letter here, but the Beijing Live, it's really just not just for the basic members, it's also for everybody. And then um if you have any questions, or if you're curious about ESG in China, I know we're not the ESG fund, but it's very interesting that Eriseg is so, driven by ESG analysis, and then they also have like a very big and then come to China, there's a lot of opportunities, but there's also a lot of challenges for ESG, maybe
Mhm.
even less of an emphasis. If you have any questions along these lines, or if you just want to like ask Gordon a really interesting question, like you have a problem, or you've been thinking about something and you're investing for a long time, you have a question, you want to share it with everybody so we can talk about it, yeah, just let me know, and then I'll just kind of help you relay the question. I'll relay the response back to you. Yeah, and then other than that, yeah, we had a pretty short meeting today. Hopefully the next meeting will be a little bit more exciting for everybody. But in
Yeah.
the meantime, yeah, just keep working on the stuff you're working on in your teams, and then also on your individual research ideas. And if you need any help with that, just let us know, and then we can see what we can kind of who we can connect you with, or what kind of resources we can share with you, stuff like that. Okay. Yeah, that's actually all. Does anyone have any questions, like burning remarks, like need assistance anywhere? Like, don't be afraid to tell me or message any one of us. Okay, if not, then yeah, that's all for today. Yeah, just hope everybody has a really productive week ahead. And then
Yeah.
so I'll check in with your PMs and with you guys individually, maybe over the next few weeks. But for the meeting today, that was just really just pretty quick one for everybody to kind of talk. But yeah. Okay, if nobody has any questions, then yeah, thank you all for coming for this very impromptu Sunday afternoon get together, and then I'll see you guys soon.
Sure, Rebecca. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Rebecca.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.